What happens when Hollywood's most discussed duchess agrees to a casual late-night interview, only for the conversation to take a sharp and unsettling turn that leaves the studio in complete silence? Tonight, we're unpacking the tense exchange that ended with Meghan Markle walking off the Jimmy Kimmel live stage in tears. And what unfolded behind the cameras may surprise you. Before we get into the details, don't forget to subscribe and share your thoughts in the comments, because this is one story you'll definitely have an opinion on. The studio buzzed with excitement as Meghan Markle stepped onto the set. The audience broke into loud applause as she walked confidently toward Jimmy Kimmel's desk, dressed in an elegant navy gown that matched her composed presence. Jimmy greeted her with his signature smile, but those familiar with him noticed something different in his expression that evening, a sign that this interview might not follow the usual light-hearted script. "Meghan, welcome back to the show," Jimmy began as they settled into their seats. "You look absolutely stunning tonight." "Thank you, Jimmy. It's always nice to be here," Meghan replied warmly, though her hands betrayed a touch of nervousness as she adjusted her dress. Jimmy leaned forward. "I have to ask, you've launched a number of projects lately, the podcast, the Netflix deals, the books. Some people claim you're using your royal ties for profit. What's your response?" Meghan's smile faded briefly before she regained composure. "Harry and I stepped away from the royal family to become financially independent. We're pursuing opportunities that reflect our values and help us support causes we believe in," Jimmy pressed on, still casual but with an edge. "But critics argue you're having it both ways, using the Duchess title for business while openly criticizing the institution that gave it to you. Isn't that contradictory?" The room grew quiet. Meghan's posture stiffened at the shift in tone. "That's an oversimplification of a very complex situation, Jimmy. We've always been clear about our experiences and our reasons for stepping back." "Clear?" Jimmy chuckled without humor. "Is that what you'd call the Oprah interview? Because from my perspective, it looked more like a calculated attack on your own family." Meghan's eyes widened. This was not the friendly exchange she had expected from someone she considered an ally in Hollywood. "Excuse me. That's incredibly unfair. We simply spoke honestly about what we went through." "Your truth," Jimmy repeated, stressing the words mockingly. "That's an interesting phrase. Truth is usually just truth, unless you're shaping it to fit a narrative." The tension in the room became undeniable. Audience members shifted uncomfortably, and crew members exchanged uneasy glances. "This clearly isn't the discussion I was told we'd have," Meghan said, her voice starting to tremble. "If you invited me here just to attack me, maybe we should stop right now." "Oh, we're just getting started," Jimmy replied, his usual charm gone. "Because people deserve to know who you really are, not the carefully managed public image, but the person behind it." "Media manipulation." Meghan's voice rose, her composure slipping. "Are you serious? You're accusing me of manipulating the media while ambushing me on live television." "Am I ambushing you?" Jimmy shot back. "Or just asking the questions no one else will? Like why you have a history of distancing yourself from people once they no longer serve your interests. Your father, your sister, your former friends, and now, it seems, your husband's family as well." The words landed hard. Meghan's face flushed as she struggled for a response. "How dare you?" she whispered, her voice shaking with anger and hurt. "You have no right to talk about my personal relationships like that, don't I?" Jimmy leaned back, clearly confident he had the upper hand. "From my perspective, it seems you've turned victimhood into a profitable career," Jimmy continued. "Every interview, every appearance, it's always someone else's fault, never yours." The studio was dead silent. Audience members, sensing the intensity of the moment, quietly recorded on their phones despite the no-filming rule, aware they were witnessing something that would dominate headlines. "This is disgraceful," Meghan said, her voice thick with restrained tears. "I came here in good faith expecting a normal interview, and instead you're launching personal attacks." "Personal attacks?" Jimmy replied with sarcasm. "I'm simply stating facts, facts that are public record. The real question is, why does the truth upset you so much?" Meghan pushed herself up from her chair, her legs unsteady. "Because what you're saying isn't truth. It's a malicious distortion meant to damage me and my family. I won't sit here and listen to this." "So you're just going to walk away?" Jimmy called after her. "Like you walked away from your family, your country, and your responsibilities." The words stopped Meghan mid-step. She turned slowly, tears streaking her face, smudging her makeup. "You've gone too far, Jimmy. Way too far." Her words hung in the air. But Jimmy didn't retreat. His expression hardened, and he leaned forward. Too far. I haven't even begun. You want to talk about crossing lines? Let's talk about how you destabilized a centuries-old institution because it didn't accommodate your every demand. Meghan wiped at her eyes, her anger sharpening her tone. You have absolutely no idea what you're talking about. None. You sit here in your comfortable bubble, cracking jokes about celebrities and internet trends, and you think that qualifies you to judge my life. The audience audibly gasped at the venom in her voice. This was Meghan Markle without restraint, raw and unfiltered. My bubble. Jimmy laughed harshly. At least I'm not pretending to be something I'm not. At least I'm not playing royalty while secretly recording private conversations with my new family. I never recorded anything. Meghan shouted, her voice echoing through the studio. That's a complete lie, and you know it. Jimmy stood too, matching her intensity. Because someone was certainly keeping very careful notes about every slight, every insult, every word that could later be weaponized in a tell-all. Convenient, isn't it? How you remember every detail that makes you look like a victim but never the moments where you created the problems. Meghan's hands trembled, her whole body shaking with anger. You're despicable. Absolutely despicable. How can you pretend to know anything about what I endured? The isolation, the harassment, the lack of support from those who were supposed to protect me. Oh, here we go again, Jimmy interrupted, rolling his eyes. Poor Meghan, the perpetual victim. Tell me, have you ever once taken responsibility for anything? Or is it always someone else's fault? That's not fair, and you know it. Meghan shot back, her voice cracking. I've admitted my mistakes. I've tried to make amends. But people like you refuse to let me move forward. You're determined to trap me in this villain narrative. Maybe because that's who you are, Jimmy said coldly. Maybe the reason the same accusations follow you, from Hollywood, from your royal in-laws, even from your own family, is because they're true. At some point, don't you think it's worth asking if you're the common denominator? His words landed with brutal force. Meghan's shoulders slumped, as if the weight of it had physically crushed her. Stop, she whispered, barely audible. Please, just stop. But Jimmy pressed on, carried by a sense of righteous anger. Do you know what's truly tragic? Harry was happy before he met you. He had challenges, yes, but he was finding his path. He had a good relationship with his brother, his father, and the people of Britain who cared for him. And now look at him, isolated, bitter, trailing after you while you cash in on his family name. Don't you dare bring Harry into this. Meghan snapped, her voice sharp again, her protective instincts ignited. Whatever issues you have with me, leave my husband out of it, Meghan said firmly. He's an adult who makes his own choices. Does he? Jimmy pressed. Or did you force his hand? Choose you or choose them. That's what abusers do, isn't it? They isolate people from their support systems. The word abuser echoed through the studio like a bomb. Meghan stumbled backward, her face draining of color beneath her smeared makeup. How dare you? She whispered. How dare you call me that? Why? Because it stings. Jimmy's tone was unrelenting. Look at the pattern, Meghan. Everyone close to you ends up hurt, isolated, or cut off. Your father, your sister, your old friends, and now Harry's entire family. At what point does it stop being coincidence and start looking like a pattern? Meghan was openly sobbing now, her body shaking with emotion. You're sick, she managed through tears. You're a cruel man who takes pleasure in tearing people down on national television. And you're a narcissist who can't stand being challenged, Jimmy shot back without hesitation. The difference is, I'm not pretending to be a humanitarian. While I do it, I am trying to make a difference. Meghan screamed, her voice breaking. I'm trying to use my platform to help people who don't have one. And you're ripping me apart for ratings. Your platform? Jimmy laughed bitterly. Your platform is built on the wreckage of relationships you've destroyed. Every speech about kindness is a slap in the face to the people you've used to climb higher. Backstage, the production team was panicking. Some frantically made calls, while others stood frozen, unable to believe what they were watching. I was helping people long before I ever met Harry, Meghan said, struggling to regain dignity despite her tears. I was an activist, I worked with charities, I tried to make an impact. Right, Jimmy sneered. And then a prince came along. Suddenly those small projects weren't enough. You saw your chance at the big leagues and you took it, didn't you? That's not what happened. Meghan's voice was hoarse from shouting. I fell in love with a man who happened to be a prince. I tried to fit into his world. His world that you immediately tried to change, Jimmy countered. His world that you criticized, rejected, and finally abandoned when it wouldn't bend to your will. Meghan swayed slightly, drained by the confrontation, her voice a whisper now. Why are you doing this? What did I ever do to you personally to deserve this cruelty? For a moment, Jimmy's expression softened, as if he saw her as a person rather than a target. But it quickly hardened again. Because you represent everything wrong with our culture: victimhood, entitlement, refusal to take responsibility. And people like you are rewarded for it while good people suffer in silence. Good people like who? Meghan asked, though she seemed to regret it immediately. Jimmy's eyes flashed with something deeply personal. His voice dropped to a chilling quiet. Good people like my friend Catherine. You remember her, don't you? Princess Catherine, the woman you've spent years undermining. Meghan went pale. I never tried to hurt Catherine. That's not true, isn't it? Jimmy pressed, his voice rising again. Stories about the dress fitting, the media comparisons your PR pushed, the digs in interviews. Did you really think nobody would notice the pattern those stories were twisted? Meghan said desperately. The dress-fitting incident. It was the other way around. Catherine made me cry, not the reverse, right? Jimmy said with biting sarcasm. Because it's always the other way around with you, isn't it? Catherine, who has spent 2 decades serving without a misstep, suddenly decides to bully you for no reason. That makes sense. You weren't there. Meghan shouted, finding strength again. You don't know what really happened behind closed doors, I know. But I know Catherine, Jimmy snapped. I've worked with her on charity projects. I've seen how she treats people off camera. She's one of the kindest people I've ever met. Watching you try to tear her down has been sickening. The audience leaned forward, captivated. Jimmy Kimmel openly defending the Princess of Wales against Meghan Markle. This was a turn no one had expected. I never tried to destroy anyone, Meghan insisted, but her voice lacked conviction. If you want to talk about campaigns, let's talk about how the palace and British press worked together to ruin my reputation from day one. Oh, please, Jimmy scoffed. The press adored you at first. You were seen as fresh, modern, glamorous. They only turned on you when you started showing your true colors. Meghan's voice rose again. What true colors? Speaking up for myself. Protecting my mental health. Shielding my children from the treatment that killed Harry's mother. There it is, Jimmy said sharply, pointing at her. The Diana card. Every time you're cornered, you hide behind her memory. How dare you compare yourself to her? Diana earned the public's respect through decades of genuine service. You couldn't last 2 years before walking away. I didn't walk away. Meghan cried, tears streaming again. I was driven out by people determined to see me fail, no matter what I did. Driven out? Or did you push everyone else away first? Jimmy countered. From where I sit, it looks like you joined that family expecting to be treated as the Hollywood star you never quite became. And when reality hit, you couldn't handle it. That's not fair, Meghan sobbed. I worked hard to fit in. I studied the rules, took the training, learned the history. But nothing I did was ever enough, for them, or for people like you. Maybe because your heart was never in it, Jimmy said coldly. Maybe you were planning your exit from the start. Tell me, when exactly did you and Harry start planning the Oprah interview? Before or after the wedding? Meghan looked stunned. We didn't plan anything. That interview happened because we needed to share our side after months of lies and attacks. Your side of the story, Jimmy repeated mockingly. Which just happened to include unprovable claims of racism, accusations that painted everyone else as villains, and perfectly timed tears that won global sympathy. Those tears were real. Meghan shouted. My pain was real. My suicidal thoughts were real. How can you sit here and mock someone's mental health struggles? I'm not mocking your struggles, Jimmy said, his voice now deadly serious. I'm questioning the timing and the motives. Isn't it strange how your darkest moments always seem to align with your biggest publicity opportunities? The accusation hung heavy in the air. Meghan stared at him in shock, as though she couldn't believe he would go that far on live television. You're a monster, she whispered. An absolute monster. And you're a manipulator who's finally been called out, Jimmy replied without hesitation. The public deserves to know who you really are before you chase political office. I'm not running for office. Meghan protested, aren't you? Jimmy raised an eyebrow. All the connections, the speeches, the photo ops with world leaders. If it walks like a duck and quacks like a duck, even if I were, which I'm not, what business is it of yours? Meghan's voice was weakening, her fight draining away. Because I care about this country, Jimmy said passionately. And I won't stand by while someone who's left broken relationships everywhere tries to charm her way into power. Meghan took a step back, finally absorbing the moment, the audience watching, the cameras catching every tear and every collapse of her composure. The weight of it seemed to crush her. That I can't do this anymore, she said quietly, defeated. I can't let you destroy me on live television while people cheer. Nobody's cheering, Meghan, Jimmy said. For the first time, his tone carried a flicker of regret. But maybe it's time you face some hard truths. Meghan turned to the cameras, makeup ruined, voice trembling but steadying with resolve. To anyone watching who's ever struggled with mental health, who's ever felt like an outsider, who's been silenced for speaking their truth, don't let people like this break you. Don't let cruelty win. She looked back at Jimmy for a final time. You think you've won something here tonight, but all you've shown is who you really are. And it's ugly, Jimmy. Really ugly. With that, she walked toward the exit, her steps shaky but determined. Running away again, Meghan, just like always, Jimmy called after her. She stopped at the edge of the stage, not turning back. No, Jimmy. I'm walking away from poison. There's a difference. And with those words, Meghan Markle vanished into the wings, leaving behind a stunned audience and a host only beginning to realize the magnitude of what had just happened. The silence in the studio was suffocating. No one quite knew what to say or do next. What had unfolded would be debated for years, so there you have it, the confrontation nobody expected, one that left viewers questioning everything they had just seen. What did you think of Jimmy's approach? Was he holding Meghan accountable, or did he cross a line? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe for more stories like this. And tell me, after this, do you think Meghan will ever risk another live television interview?